everyone, and welcome back to Rationcast, where we go through the minds of reviewers and other people interested in military rations. Today we have Gundog4314. Hi, Gundog. Introduce
Hey,
yourself.
how you
Tell us
doing?
about you.
Well, my name is Gundog. For some reason, whenever I typed in Gundog, it said you have to have these numbers, and that's kind of what I ended up with. And I kind of started doing ration reviews after watching G. Schultz, Miss Spy, and one of your countrymen, Flanker Tanker.
Right.
And I said, well, if these guys can do it, I can do it. And uh, probably really screw it up and share all my experiences with everybody of me screwing it up. And I've been doing it ever since.
Man, but your videos sound, good. They sound reviews. So, I think when I first started back crazily watching ration reviews, it was you and Steve that I first wandered into, and it was one of your videos where you took US MRE and you basically got rid of all the other rubbish that you would never ever drink, eat, or use, and you half the weight of the entire MRE.
Oh yeah, we call this field stripping. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's kind of neat because I think just me and G Schultz were the only ones in the community that I'm aware of that actually were in the service.
right.
And even us two, we had completely different uh types of, we were both in the army, but oh, now my dogs are going nuts. They're the MRE taster dogs, everybody. but but even our experience was totally different because I think he was like a mechanic or a commo guy, where I was literally stuck out in the field. I was artillery, and
Right.
in the army we call it field artillery, and they weren't lying. We spent so much time in the field, and I ate so many of these MREs just over and over and over. But I'm sure you'll have questions that we'll get into
Yeah.
as far as that.
Yeah, I mean, what one of the questions, that popped up prominently when I was asking in the groups, what do you want to ask Gundog? It was, can you tell us about the time in the military, where your favorite station was, any ration moments that stand out, any disasters? I mean, obviously, if you can't tell us stuff, then that's fine, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, just tell us about your time serving.
Well, I'll go ahead and start off. I was in the military for 5 years, and I spent my first 18 months assigned at Fort Meade, which is in Maryland. It's the state that I happen to reside in right now. And out of that 18 months, I actually only spent 3 of those months in the United States. Uh, so that made things interesting. Can't exactly go into where we were at, but we were down in a Central American country, which made things interesting. Around 1989, certain gentleman named Noriega was involved, so that made things very interesting. Started eating a ton of MREs down there, which started my love-hate relationship with them. From Panama, see, there we go. Uh, that's where I was. I was down in Panama. From there, I spent 6 months doing recruiting duty as a recruiter assistant, and that was that was challenging as well. I got to spend a year in Germany. That was probably the best time that I had because, unlike most Americans over in Europe, I wasn't assigned to an American unit. I was actually assigned to the 10th German Artillery Regiment, and they had rockets and towed artillery, and we were assigned to there. We're a small American detachment. We provided them with special weapons support. And after that, I went to Fort Bragg. Uh, Everybody knows that Fort Bragg is the home of the airborne, and it is pretty much 100 miles an hour, full time, full speed, never stop, always doing the mission. And again, like I said, we just lived in the field constantly. I, I'm not kidding when I say I must have eaten another couple hundred MREs there. Yeah. So that's my military stuff in a nutshell.
So you're definitely well versed on the menus that are available over the period of time. Then,
Well, back then we only had 12, 12 meals in a box. Well, I mean, you only had 12 meals in a box anyway, but we only had 12 menus. You
right?
know, it wasn't like we had 24. So at least you got a little bit of, you know, more variation. But when I was in, we had a lot of Vietnam veterans.
Right.
They were like they were at the tail end of their careers, and they were like, "You guys have 12 meals. You guys were spoiled," because they like only had like six.
Wow. Yeah.
So they were calling us, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of babies." And what they did is they had their own spice kits,
Right. Okay.
and they taught us how to make army chow better. Hey, look, you need garlic powder, you need sea salt, you need all this stuff, hot sauce.
Yeah.
And so when they had it, when they got the crappy MRE, lima beans and ham,
Oh.
they were like, well, I'm going to take this dehydrated onions and I'm going to take this garlic powder and I'm going to completely transform this substandard food into something palatable that I'll actually will enjoy. And I've been taking that mantra as far as my philosophy of rations ever since.
Yeah, I can imagine that, having that small little spice kit does actually elevate it. And, as you said, you had an even more limited menu set. So you got to do something to make it less boring, I suppose.
Totally less boring. I mean, for instance, if you have beef stew, if you have curry powder, you add some curry powder, and suddenly you've got this Indian cuisine.
Yeah.
You add Creole seasoning. Wow, and you got some jambalaya action going on. I mean, it just adds so much variation to your chow that I mean, it's like having a whole different MRE after that.
I should imagine it is. It's almost like you want to turn around to them and say, "Look, guys, this is the one that you should be making."
Oh, and it's weird too because everybody turns into a field gourmet, into a field chef, and we would actually have little competitions, of who could make the best kind of meal, and because I get some flack about that on some of my reviews. I'm not a purist. They're like, you should only eat what's inside of the ration. That's the
Yeah.
only thing. Nah. If you're in the military, I mean, you get sick of eating the same stuff over and
Of course.
over and over. So if you can do something to spruce it up, spice it up, that's what you do. And that's where the enjoyment for the ration community and in trying these rations,
Yeah.
comes out of it.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, someone that's been in the military, actually eating these day in, day out, I suppose you've got the most authentic view of them. And while, I say this, hobbyists eat them. I mean, I tried a little while ago, a couple of years ago, doing an MRE every day through December.
Yeah, I can't even do that.
Well,
No.
I actually came down with the flu, I think, on day 15, and I just couldn't. Well, I didn't eat for 2-3 days, and didn't really get out of bed. So, I mean, that put the end to that. But I really started to appreciate after sort of that 10th day of doing it. I mean, it's just only one meal a day, mind you. I'm not eating 3 times an MRE 2 or 3 times a day, which I assume that sometimes you guys would probably have like a sort of a breakfast in a mess hall, and then have like lunch and dinner out, or tea out of an MRE. Is that the case?
Well, with us, and again, your mileage may vary. I listened to G Schultz. He's like, yeah, we had an MRE for every meal. We had an MRE for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm like, wow. We didn't have that. And just listening to K-Man, your last interview, he was like, he made the comment, they want the soldiers to be, nutritionally fed, and full and, good to go. Well, that wasn't our experience at all, because what they did with us is you got 2 MREs a day. And granted, this is like Fort Bragg, so they're out there feeding, you know, 20, 30,000 soldiers, so
Yeah.
they have to, cut the budget somewhere. So instead of giving these guys 3 squares, we're going to give them 2 squares, which is, still 2,400 calories. So my experience, I remember always being hungry out in the field,
Yeah.
because those brown bag MREs, they say that they had 1,000 calories in them, but yeah, that might be pushing it, because some of those entrees, some of those mains, they're only like half the size of, what the modern MRE has. So,
Yeah.
and then some of them are just horrible, like the 4 fingers of death.
Yeah.
Back then you were just like, oh my God. Oh. And then
So,
anything that had barbecue sauce or tomato sauce, it was so acidic that you were guaranteed to get heartburn. So you're just like, dude, do I just suck it up and starve, or just eat crackers? I mean, we had dudes, all they could eat out there was just crackers and peanut butter and jelly. That was it.
That's
they were
rough.
like, I can't do it anymore. I don't, but kick me out.
That's
care.
it. I'm done. I don't care. I'm done.
Yeah.
Take me out. So how were the menus assigned to you?
How many menus were assigned to us?
So were you just randomly given a menu, or did you pick the menu for that day, the 2 that you were having?
Well, the way how it worked out is like, I was in artillery. We had 11 people in my artillery section.
Right.
And each box had 12 rations. So what they would do is they would say, okay, Thompson, it's your turn to pick first.
Right.
And they would open up the box, and you had to be careful with the box, because you needed to save the sleeve. That came useful for what happens after you eat. But we won't get into that. But what they would do, they would say, Thompson, it's your turn to pick first. And you just reach in and you grab, and then the next guy grabs, all the way down the line.
Right.
So you might get, it was all a surprise. You never knew what you were going to get. Back then, spaghetti was the best, because it came with M&Ms.
Right. Okay.
All the rest of them just came with junk. We didn't have Twizzlers and all that other stuff that they got nowadays. And man, if I'd have got Reese's Pieces way back in like 1991, I would have. Whoa, man, that would have been awesome. But yeah,
everyone fighting over that one unit.
Yeah, no kidding, man. We probably would have. I watched 2 guys fight over a peanut butter and jelly sandwich out in the field with real bread. So it happens.
Wow. I suppose it's real luxury, isn't it? When you instead of the wheat snack bread that you'd normally get.
Well, we didn't have that back then. We actually had little packets of bread that's similar, that the Canadians use, and that are in the Australian and New Zealand rations. We had little packs of like legit bread, but probably like every other week, I guess our first sergeant, first shirt, he would feel sorry for us, and he would bring like each section like a loaf of bread. So the whole time you would just save your peanut butters and your jellies, because the primo thing that you could get, you get 2 pieces of, I don't know, it's probably the cheapest white bread that you could possibly get, but 2 peanut butters and 2 grape jellies. That was paramount. That was considered heaven. And like I said, those 2 guys, they're sitting there eating their sandwich, taunting each other. Oh, I got 2 jellies. Well, the other guy was screwing around and knocked the sandwich out of his hand. And
oh dear,
he's like, "You son of a bitch, you did that on purpose."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, man, fights on, and everybody else is laughing. We're like, well, should we stop this before they, start drawing blood? No, let them go, man. Let them blow off some steam. Yep. There you go.
I guess, the tension and everything else from your job, that just requires that little thing just to set somebody off.
Well, and it's not really the tension. It's, you don't get away from people. No. You're always, you got 10 people in your face 24 hours a day for like 21 days, 30 days, 35 days. Like the guys that would go to Iraq and Afghanistan, they'd be stuck staring at each other for a year. You imagine just man, dude, if I tell you to tie your shoe, if I have to tell you to tie your shoelaces one more time, I'm gonna kill you. You know, I mean, you just that kind of, but that also that frustration and anger with each other also forms bonds of brotherhood that you just can't replicate like on a football team or something like that. It's so different. And there are guys that I went to basic training with that I'm still in touch, and I graduated basic training in like 87.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of bond, you know. While you're in the military, it sucks. You can't wait to get out. You're like, oh my God, what have I done, man? But
I guess it's that you all know what you've all been through, and it's, you know, you can relate to it really easily.
I think the best phrase I've ever heard concerning the military is "embrace the suck."
Fair enough.
That's what it is, man. It's gonna suck while you're doing it, but and I'll be honest, my first, I don't know, 5 years that I got out, you know, I didn't even think about it. You know, I wasn't even concerned. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was put another MRE component piece in my mouth.
Right.
And I mean, literally, I was so sick of those things that it took me 20 years to try one. And I only did that because my nephew joined the Marines.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, I've got blah, 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 you know, burrito. I was like, what? No, they don't know. They don't have that in there. And we tried it, and I was like, holy crap, this thing's actually not bad.
It's actually edible.
Well, yeah. And then the nephew was like, what are you talking about? This stuff is horrible, you know? So we went and got an old brown bag MRE that I don't know, was in the bottom of, you know, Foot Locker or something. And we were like, open that up and eat that. And he was like, oh my God, this is foul. And we were like, well, yeah. So, you know, we told him, you know, 20, 30 years from now, you know, what the soldiers 20, 30 years, you know, up the road are going to be eating, you're going to think it's going to taste good. And they're going to think what you're eating now is crap. So,
I mean, I guess that kind of leads me on to the next question is like, well, you know, how have rations got better or worse since you're in? I think you've just pretty much explained it. So, you know, the style, the technology of how to pack food and preserve it, etc., is getting better, and they're understanding that it's not just a fuel source, it's a morale source as well.
Well, it can be. I have seen some things that were better back then and things now that are worse. So, I mean, just because time marches on doesn't always mean that it's better. Like I'd mentioned earlier, we actually had like real, you know, bread, you know, in these little packets. Now they got that wheat snack bread. I mean, what kind of diabolical person decided that was going to be good for somebody out in the field? I mean, I think people use those as like ninja stars, you know, out in the field, you know, just to blow off steam because they're not palatable, you know. I don't know. And one thing that was universally loved, and you can tell by the other reviewers too, was the freeze dried fruit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everybody loves. Oh man, it's so good, you know. And everybody looked forward to getting it. And almost every ration had it, whether it was fruit cocktail or pears or peaches. That was one thing that we all liked. It was lightweight. You know, you could eat it on the move. You could do whatever. And they took that out. You got, I don't know, whatever, wet packed fruit. You open it up, all the juice pours all over on your pants and all your kit. And you're like, God, man, what the? Why can't we have freeze dried fruit? But
you're left with sticky hands for the rest of the day.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I'll tell you one story really quick because you know I'm old and I bust off on tangents. But I remember one time I reached it. It wasn't even like my turn to pick, but I reached in the Emery box and I did pick. I think at the time it was menu number 10. It was spaghetti, right. And I was taunting everybody. Ha ha, man! I got spaghetti, you know. and I crumbled up my crackers, and I got my cheese and the hot sauce, and I mixed in some onion stuff, and I peeled the top off, and I got it all in there, and I'm laughing and teasing the other guys. Man, you got that crap I got, and it fell out of my hand right into the sand.
Oh no.
And I'm like, son of a. So here I am just taunting all these dudes, man. And I'm trying to pick sand out of my freaking spaghetti. But yeah, stuff like that.
And I bet you got some taunting back.
Yeah, they're like, ha ha, Corbel, ha ha ha. Yeah. Shut up, y'all. But yeah, I guess they say, man, when you got something good, don't crow about it. Karma.
Because you never know what's going to happen. So
yeah.
was your nephew getting back into the Marine, going into the Marines? Was that when you started getting back into rations?
Yeah, that's exactly when I started. He was like, yeah, I'm going in. I'm going to do it. And we were like, don't do it. Don't, not the Marines, for Christ's sake. But he was hard headed like me. Like I was the only member of my family to join the military that wasn't drafted.
Right.
So, my whole family's Navy. So yeah, he went ahead and did it and brought some rations home with him, and I gave it a go.
Did you have any influence in him joining the Marines?
No, if he would have listened to us, he would have went to the Air Force and got a decent gig, been able to go to school. The Air Force has community college of the Air Force where you can do these skill tests and get out of there with at least an associate's degree and 60 college credits. Me and his father's criteria was I want to jump out of airplanes and blow shit up. So,
just tell me where to put the explosives and I'll do it.
Yeah, I said, what is the dumbest thing I could possibly do? I got a 99 on my ASVAB. I can pick anything I want in the U.S. Army. I can do any job. My GT score was super high, and I picked freaking 13 Bravo artillery crewman. I think my father, my dad, he was a senior chief in the Navy. I think he just wanted to just grab me by the neck and just choke me out. But I was 17. I was ready to go.
Yeah, of course.
Want to go explore the world. And
so what would you say the main thing driving you behind joining up would have been? Just an adventure? Or
no, in my family, I come from a relatively lower middle class family. My father was career military, and a good portion of my uncles, they all did a career in the Navy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my dad said, hey, look, there's two of you boys. One of you I'll pay to go to college. And the other one, you got to make it on your own. And, my brother was older than me. And I said, hey, do you want to go to college? And he said, yeah, I want to try to, get in computers and be a computer engineer, dude. And I said, so Mazel tov, man, I'm going to go jump out of airplanes and, blow stuff up.
See you later.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge choice. That I think the thing that really pissed my father off is he spent all that time putting my brother into college, and then he ended up joining the Army as enlisted afterwards. He was like, "You stupid boy," but yeah,
I spent all that money on you.
But he took advantage of his Army time. He ended up doing special forces stuff and all that, which was well, my hat's off to him and all those guys at 10th Group out of Fort Carson. Those guys were super troopers. So
yes.
he ended up getting his money's worth out of my brother.
Yeah, no, it's I some of the stuff you see on the training you guys went through, and even in modern day, it's quite extreme, and I don't think I would have the ability to do it. Well, no, I wouldn't. I'm way too unfit. But when you look, it's a shrinking. Well, in the UK, I'm not sure about the States, but it's a shrinking number that we have in our armed forces because nobody wants to do it anymore. That makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
We're we're currently experiencing, so stupid, people queuing at fuel stations because we've got a lack of HGV drivers, lorry drivers, which is causing a shortage of fuel. There's no shortage of fuel, but they can't get it to the fuel stations quick enough. As it's going in, it's coming back out. And again, it's the same scenario when we had loads of Europeans over driving our lorries and that, and of course Brexit, etc. And they've all gone home, and it's just left this massive hole now, and we're stuck. So, I mean, hats off to anybody that does serve or joins up. It's just I admire you. You're doing something that I could never do. So, on the subject of actual rations, what's been your favorite one?
Hands down, my favorite ration that I have tried so far is an Indonesian ration. It was a freeze-dried one.
Okay.
And that thing was now granted, if I had to eat this like every day for a week, I'd probably be sick to death of it. but as an enthusiast, I had that. It had like this soup in it that had like squid. I was just blown away. I was like, wow, this thing is that the portion sizes were huge. I mean, and even for Westerners, the portion sizes were like too big for like me. I was just like, wow, I'm completely blown away. It was the best ration hands down that I've had. There's a close number two, and it was actually one that Steve 1989 had sent me. It was a freeze-dried Korean ration.
Okay.
And it was so spicy. Oh man, it was like a bibimbap, one of the rice dishes.
Yeah.
Wow. It was like, I think he said it was like a Republic of Korea Marine, ration or something. But that thing was a very, very close second.
So looking at the other side of the scale, what's been the worst?
My worst ration of all times, and not necessarily being a reviewer, but chicken a la king, an old brown bag chicken a la king. I got so violently ill off of one of those when I was in the Army. I think I watched Old Smokey. He was like, "Here, I've got chicken a la king." As soon as I saw the bag, I started like getting like
flashback
sweats. I actually started getting nauseous just looking at the bag.
That's a bad experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's mental now. It is built into my genetic code to stay away at all costs from chicken a la king. I can't eat any kind of like creamed chicken to this day. I can't do it. It's a huge mental block. And yeah.
That's it's really, really telling that it's not just if it's in a ration.
I'm sick just thinking about it right now.
Okay, well, we'll jump off of that one then, so we don't hear the sound of vomiting over the internet. So, I mean, every sort of reviewer or someone that's into rations has this sort of like unicorn ration in their head. The one that they'd love to add to their collection, whether they actually try it or not. Do you have that?
There's a ration that I tried to source for about 5 years, and up to actually contacting like the Ministry of Defense and talking with their local country's consulate, and that's India, trying to get an Indian MRE and an Indian ration. I mean, they exist, they really do exist, but I have talked with brigadiers, like their general grade officers. I've talked with an admiral, and none of them have ever been able to be authorized to source one of those rations. I got this huge thing from the consulate, right here in DC. I mean, I actually went there and, was talking with them, and they were like, look, that the government, won't do it. They won't authorize. I mean, they might do it for somebody like Steve, that, he's got 1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
So, he might be able to, really,
Swing it.
truly profile this, in a great light. But just like a flunky like me, they were like, yeah, we don't want you saying, oh, this stuff sucks, and embarrassing it. That's just my, logic.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a shame that it's hard to get hold of some of these, because it does give a really good comparison to, what all the other countries eat. I mean,
See, yeah, and you just said that. That's exactly my view on rations. My perspective isn't as an enthusiast or a collector or anything like that, because I think I'm like the antithesis of a ration reviewer. I don't have huge collections and I don't have displays. I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
When I'm done with this stuff, it goes in the garbage and adios.
Yeah.
But my perspective of it, or my view, is as a soldier opening up a Russian ration or a Japanese ration, Brazilian ration, whatever, just to see that poor dude out in the middle of the jungle or the woods, and what they get, what little neat things that they get, as opposed to what we got, as in the U.S. Army. In some countries, man, they have the neatest little whiz bang things in there, and some, man, are just plain Jane. That's all you get.
Yeah.
And that also reflects on what kind of budgets those countries have,
Of
and
course.
how governments view the troops.
Yeah.
We're like, that's what we used to laugh about. Our military. They're like, man, we spend the most money on food and tanks and everything, and yet they can't get us some real decent food. It's just really interesting.
Yeah.
We're
I
like,
mean, it always goes along with like sort of like French rations, with the ostrich and lasagna and stuff like that. That always amazes me, the fact that they're putting that sort of stuff into rations. It seems to be like going the extra mile. And some of the Polish stuff as well is really nice as well. With big chunks of sausage and stuff like that. So,
right.
I can understand it. It's also about having a bit of home, I suppose.
That's true, and that's one thing about your country that I thought was absolutely outstanding. Was like that 10-man ration pack.
Yeah.
I watched a video of Flanker Tanker, man, and you actually get to cook the food. You get to cook the pasta and the rice, and you get to make it your own, and it had seasoning packets, and you can make bread. I'm like, what? That's what we need. That's what we need in the field, because you have some guys, they'll be in a section or a squad. If they've got the right things to use, they will make that stuff, and they will make it good, and everybody in your unit's going to be happy. But then you have the contingent that's like, well, what are you going to do when the bullets are flying and all that? Well, first of all, you're not going to be sitting eating food while bullets are flying. You're going to be paying attention to that,
Oh yeah.
So
tends to draw your attention away from food.
Yeah, all of that. Well, you can't have a toaster out in the field. No kidding, buddy. But while you're not getting shot at, when you're not getting shelled by artillery or mortars or RPGs coming in, there's a really good picture I saw. It was actually a firefight was going on, but the cook had a barbecue out there, and he was flipping steaks because they got steaks. And he said, he goes, there's no way that I'm leaving this grill to run out there and return fire, because if I burn these steaks, as soon as it's done, all these infantry guys are going to kick my butt.
Exactly.
For burning the steaks. And I was like, right there, that is a soldier. That is a Marine. That is the right kind of dude that you want, on that grill. Looking out for his buddies. Man, if I let these things get overdone, these guys are just going to kill me.
Yeah.
So
it won't be worth it. It won't be.
See, and there I go, man. I completely lost track of what your question was. So yeah.
And you answered it. It was the unicorn ration that we were on.
All right.
That's fine, man. It's fine. It's just half of these things, these sort of interviews that I'm doing, I like getting to know, like everyone getting to know the person, because you do a review, it's what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes sort of thing,
Yeah,
depending on what style it is, whether it's a 24 or a single. And it's just, this gives it an insight into the reviewer, where they've come from, and what interested them about, what got them started in it. And yourself being a former military man, then your nephew joining, it's that drew you back in, and I should imagine that it's you had some odd feelings getting back to eating this sort of thing, but you've kept with it, you've started a channel, and just like you were saying, I mean, with myself, I don't have the space, because in the UK, houses aren't built like American ones. They're very small. So we physically don't have the space to store loads and loads of rations and have loads of them on show, etc. So just like you, once I'm done with that review, I don't save what's left. It goes in the bin. So I think there's two sides to the same coin of everyone is either a collector and a reviewer or just a plain out reviewer. And there's nothing against the people that are hobbyists that collect them. I mean, fair enough, because at the end of the day, this is all about recording the history of them and comparison. It's a bit of a historic thing, because it's not something that an ordinary civilian like myself would get to see.
Right. Yeah, and that's one thing that's a little different for me as well. The rations that I get, I try to get things that are like in date so I can actually eat them.
Yeah.
I know some guys, they're like, I want to eat this 30-year-old MRE, or my God, Steve eating Civil War stuff.
I know.
I used to, we used to gab all the time. I used to say, man, my hat's off to you, but I said, you were, 20 some odd years younger than me. Your constitution, can absorb that kind of stuff. I'm not quite willing to take those risks, being in my 50s. You're like, he got botulism really bad once, so you think he would be a little more,
he'd learn,
careful at times. And he actually is. He's got like respirators now, and I was like, make sure you have activated charcoal nearby to sop up poison. He's like, yeah. So yeah.
Hats off to the guy. I mean, some of the stuff he will try is just blows my mind. It's just fair play to him. I mean, I've eaten stuff that's out of best before, but only by like a year, 2 years, I think. But nothing sort of like in the craziness that he goes into. Yeah, I mean, as you say, he's had botulism. I'm surprised it's only been the once. I'd expect it to be at least a couple more times. But at least he's taking the precautions as much as you can, I suppose, with eating that sort of stuff.
Yeah. See, I make jokes. I'm like, every time that you don't hear you don't see a video from Steve, like for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, he's been hospitalized.
Yeah.
He's in hospital recovering. He's like, all right, I'm ready to do another one now.
Fill me up with another one.
Yeah, every time I see a Steve review, man, I just cross myself. I'm like, all right, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, come on, don't die with this one.
Yeah, don't let it be a really rubbish one that causes the end. Yeah. So, I mean, is there anything else you want to tell the listeners, or you're all good?
Were those all the questions that you had?
Yeah, I mean, they're the questions that popped up.
Right.
So, I mean, if there's anything else you want to bring to the table.
No, I think I pretty much covered all of the ration stuff. I think the one thing that, I will watch some people sample, rations, like on YouTube videos. And that's one thing I want to give a shout out to everybody who's really joined the community. I mean, there's so many reviewers out there now, man. I'm just kind of in awe.
Yeah.
And I get emails constantly, of like, I want to do MRE videos, and it's gotten to the point where I've actually got a PDF, where I can send to people, or I email to people, so they don't just start like I did, just turning the camera on for 45 minutes, no cuts, no edits, no nothing, man, and just going. My first 2 or 3 years videos, man, I can't even watch them. I'm just like, oh my God, what was
Cringeworthy.
I doing back then? Oh yeah, I mean, I just can't do it. And thank God I started like watching like some of Emmy Made in Japan's videos where
Yeah.
she actually has, production skills. And I was like, well, Holly, I can do this maybe.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I edit out a lot of the fluff. Like I've got one review where I'm opening up these civil defense crackers, and oh my gosh, just I think I spent like 8 minutes just trying to open up the stupid can. It's like uh
I think that's something that some people don't realize what goes into. I mean, there's two routes you can go down. There's a couple of reviewers that do the 100% unedited, sort of just raw as it happens is how it happens, and then you got people that will go and edit it down to make it nice, add the graphics, the music, etc. And what some people I feel don't realize when you're first starting out in YouTube, if you're going to go down the route of making it all nice, fluffy and trying semi-professional type stuff, is you've got to try and work out how to get that 45-minute video into 20 minutes, but not lose so much of it that it makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, that's the conundrum. That's the creator conundrum.
It is.
What do I do? What do I sacrifice, or do I make this a two-part video? Which honestly, right now I've got so many 24-hour rations, lately, that I think that's probably that's the format I'll start doing, because I'll be honest, I have a short attention span with stuff, and geez, if you ask my other half, she's also going to tell you I'm a very impatient person.
Yeah.
So, I need shorter little videos. Somebody puts out like a 30-minute video or 40-minute video, I'll watch it all, but it might take me 2 or 3
attempts,
sittings at it, before I get it all down, because I just get a lot of distractions. Like since we've been talking, like my phone has rung like 3 times, and I'm just like, right now you're my priority.
Yeah.
So
but
I'm like, I can always call you back or send you an email, blah blah blah. But I'm really digging what you're doing with this. So that's why I reached out. I was like, hey, yeah, add me to the queue, add me to the list.
Yeah,
because I think this was a very good way to let the community know about ration reviewers, instead of just shoving food down their pie hole. Learn a little about them, and then you kind of get to be like David Letterman. It's kind of cool.
Hey man, you got to start somewhere, haven't you? And I appreciate it, the fact that you did come forward. It's nice to have more people willing to participate in it. And the getting K-Man was awesome, and Smitty and Readiness Reviews, they're all great guys for doing so. And I know that I've sort of messaged a load of people, and it's just a case of getting everyone together, because just like yourself, you're in the US, I'm in the UK, and timings can always be a bit funny, and also work commitments, etc. So, but like you say, it's so people can see reviewers as human beings rather than just somebody on YouTube that's shoving food in their face. Do you know?
Yep.
So
exactly.
It's putting the human front on the world. So, I mean, that's it from me. Any last remarks?
No, well, you kind of mentioned it. I mean, and K-Man kind of mentioned it last time. This community is really about food and getting people together.
Almost
I mean,
definitely.
bottom line, like, I don't really deal with drama on my channel. I don't deal with politics or religion or none of that other stuff. It's literally breaking bread with people around the world. And because I started this, I get to meet people like you, and I get to I get to talk to people from, I've got a great relationship with old mate Drop Air in Australia. We're mates now. We're buddies. We talk all the time. And anytime that I reach out, I say, hey, look, I'm going to do a Kazakh ration, or I need to do a Russian ration, or something from Italy. I get somebody from that country, that's usually served in the military, as a reference, saying, hey, look, I'll volunteer my time to help you out, on how to do this stuff. And, because it's all because of this community, and the community is really a microcosm of itself, and it just seems to keep expanding. It's got ebb and flow. I wish my buddy Kiwi dude would come back, eventually.
Yeah.
And but life happens. Eventually it'll be time for me to roll out. But right now I'm still having fun. I'm still enjoying it, and just wish I could devote a little more time to it, like I used to.
Yeah, I mean, as I was speaking to K-Man last week, it's just it's evolved, and it's constantly evolving. It's just such a vast thing. It just every day there's somebody new getting introduced to it and finding it interesting. Of course, and that causes them to search more on YouTube and the internet, and hopefully they do roll across the MRE info forums, because that type of forum, or ration people in general, that I've found so far is that everyone, 99.9% everyone respects each other, allows them to have their opinion, etc. There's a bit of banter going on, but not so much as like in sort of like an example, car circles. You can tend to find that if one person doesn't agree with it, it's completely wrong. Whatever you say, you're completely wrong.
Right. The fanboys.
Yeah, exactly. And modifying a car or whatever, it has to be done in a certain way, otherwise it's wrong. It's not done that way. Well, it's your car, do what the hell you want. I might not agree with it, but whatever, mate. So I mean, that's the one thing that, as I said, in the ration forums, and that you might get a little bit of banter going on, but that's generally between people that know each other really well. But everyone's really kind, thoughtful, helpful, and coming with information. If you're doing a review and you've got a question or whatever, you just chuck the question out there and somebody will answer it in a way of, not you're stupid, you should know that, but hey, this is the answer, bit of history or whatever, XYZ, and then
Right. No, I should really do a better job of promoting MRE info, because it's, like I said, it's a reference material for anybody that's interested in rations and in reviewing stuff. I use it as a reference for almost all of my vids, especially when I'm doing US stuff, especially old ancient stuff like me. I've got a one-stop shop where I can go and I can look at menus from 1987 and know exactly what was in that box, and it's because of K-Man.
Yeah.
And we also have another great resource, which is Ruler Yak. Sean, he's building a whole ration museum, up in Philly.
Yeah.
And personally, when it's time for me to pack up rations, and sail off into the sunset, I'm going to send all, anything I have remaining, I'm going to send it to him.
Yeah.
What better way to,
attribute to rations.
Yeah, to contribute, and keep it in the community, for people that are interested, maybe after I'm long and gone, So,
I mean, the food aspect of military is often overlooked, because people just see it as it's there. When as you've been saying, if you take a step back and actually look at it, and how it's progressed, and the technology or whatever, and you're saying about the old timers from Vietnam, etc. It's a history lesson of war, of military in its own right.
Right, living history.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So it's something that needs to be recorded and preserved for future people to look back on and see how far we have come, or in some cases, bring some back like bread.
Right.
Exactly. So that's been Gundog, everybody. It's been fantastic talking to you, mate. And we possibly are looking in the near future to have a group of us on maybe a live chat or something on YouTube. So hopefully you'll be down for that, and we can get people to ask questions live. So hopefully that will be something that we'll be setting up in the not too distant future. But I just want to say thanks very much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've all learned something about Gundog. So from me, it's goodbye.
And from Gundog is goodbye. Thanks for listening to everybody. And I'm sure IronWarning is going to have tons more great reviewers in future podcasts.
Thanks, guys.